Family ties always make for great dramatic plot points, and that's not just in stories like Game of Thrones. Narratives centered on familial dynamics are ever so prevalent in comics. From Marvel to DC to the Golden Age Fawcett comics, there have always been some serious fam jam storylines plucking away at the heartstrings of readers. So today, we're counting down our favorite superpowered family units with our list of the top 10 superhero families. And disclaimer, we're talking blood relatives, rather than figurative families like the Bat family for this list. With that in mind, let's jump in. And at number 10, the Marvel family. One of the earliest families to ever grace the pages of comic books was the Marvel family, a unit of relatives all a part of the Captain Marvel mythos, a character initially owned by Fawcett Comics that would later be owned by DC, who then changed his name to Shazam. Also not to be mistaken with Marvel's Captain Marvel, who existed after the company bought the copyright to the character's name. Anywho, in 1941 and 1942, Fawcett introduced teen spin-off characters for the hero, which included Captain Marvel Jr., his sidekick, and his sister Mary Marvel. Later, Uncle Marvel would be introduced too, although he didn't have any superpowers. The Marvel family comics amassed a whole lot of popularity by the late 40s. There was even an animal in the mix, Hoppy the Marvel Bunny, who had 15 comic book appearances. If that wasn't a big enough family tree for you, the character also got 3 foster siblings that were introduced in Flashpoint: Eugene, Pedro, and Darla. Needless to say, these days they're known as the Shazam family, because, DC can't really use the Marvel family because it's so many legal battles with Captain Marvel / Shazam. Alright, and at number 9 we've got the Asgardians. Okay, yes, Asgardians are a race and not the family name, but you guys totally know who I'm referencing. Thor, his daddy Odin, and his brother Loki. Loki, ever the Asgardian fashionista, you all know it's true, isn't technically Thor's brother by blood. Rather, he's the adopted son of Odin, after the Allfather had defeated Loki's biological father, King Laufey of the Giants of Jotunheim. He was raised alongside Thor as his brother, and once Thor gained the Asgard throne, Loki became a public enemy, and their sibling rivalry became more dangerous. Loki was eventually apprehended, and Odin trapped him inside of a tree, but the god of mischief managed to get out, and brought the fight to Thor, who was on Earth in New York City. These days, Loki has become a bit more of an anti-hero, something that's even enabled him to be worthy of lifting Mjolnir, which of course he used against Thor in a battle. The MCU has done a particularly good job at representing Thor and his family up on the big screen too, with Loki being arguably the best villain in the franchise, minus a certain big purple fiend who got his snap on in Infinity War. Up next, number 8, the Summers. The members of the Summers family tree are quite important when it comes to mutant history in the Marvel Universe. For starters, Scott Summers, aka Cyclops, and Jean Grey, known as Marvel Girl at the time, helped found the X-Men, and would go on to lead various factions of it over the years. Jean is one of the most powerful of the lot, an Omega-level mutant, and the physical manifestation of the Cosmic Phoenix Force. At times, she's been one of the strongest forces in the Marvel Universe altogether. During a brief period where Cyclops got it on with a clone of Jean's named Madeline Pryor, it was an unfortunate time, they conceived a child, who ended up being Cable, Nathaniel Summers, after the baby was sent to the future. Cable would then adopt and raise Hope Summers, the first mutant to be born after the Decimation event, when Scarlet Witch depowered almost all of the mutants in the world. Scott also has 2 brothers, Havoc, another character who was a key figure in the X-Men stories, and Vulcan, Gabriel Summers, a supervillain and the youngest of the siblings. Also, fun fact, all of the siblings' powers, they don't really affect each other, which is really kind of interesting. It's a thing that happens with some of the mutant families in the Marvel Universe, which is kind of cool. Alright, moving on to number 7, the Pyms. The Pyms are a prime example of how intertwining many of the families in the Marvel Universe are with one another. They're also as unconventional of a family as you can get. So in the comics, Hank Pym married Janet Van Dyne, aka the Wasp. Hank and Janet never had kids, likely due to their constant marital problems and Hank, having a mental breakdown and beating her that one time. But Hank is still seen as a father to a certain Marvel character, Ultron. In the comics, Hank is the one who builds the robot Ultron, who sees Hank as his dad, and Ultron goes on to create 4 other robots, one of which is the Vision. Enter the complicated family tree. Vision married Scarlet Witch, who used to be the daughter of Magneto, although that has now been retconned, and is still the twin brother of Quicksilver. Quicksilver then married the sister of Inhuman Queen Medusa. It just only gets more complicated from there, and if you consider a bunch of alternate timelines, Vision can be linked to the Fantastic Four, who then can be linked to the Summers, who then can be linked to Apocalypse, all through marriage and adoption. So yeah, don't father robots. They lead to trouble in more ways than one. And at number 6, the Hulks. Another non-traditional family, Bruce Banner's clan of hulking monsters is pretty expanded, especially considering the character sometimes likes to just be on his own. When his cousin Jennifer Walters was in need of a blood transfusion, Bruce was there, but this resulted in her acquiring her own Hulk powers that the character could actually control much better than Bruce ever could. In addition to that, other characters with Hulk powers have a familial relation to Bruce. Both his ex-wife Betty Ross and her father, General Thaddeus E. Thunderbolt Ross, ended up also becoming Hulks. Red She-Hulk, and Red Hulk. In addition to that, in Planet Hulk, Banner marries an alien named Sierra, and she has 2 kids with him, Hiro Kala and Scar. And at number 5, the Waynes. While the Bat family may be the most iconic figurative family in comic book history, Bruce does have some familial blood ties that aren't dead. Sorry, had to. The Waynes are a family that have many roots all across the DC multiverse, typically varying Bruce's parents and altering Batman's origin story. But Prime Earth itself has a Wayne history that stretches back further than 1855, which is when brothers Solomon and Joshua Wayne purchased Wayne Manor. The New 52 Batman would briefly explore the life of Alan Wayne in 1922, concerning the family's history with the Court of Owls, an organization secretly working within Gotham City. By the time Bruce's dad Thomas Wayne married his wife Martha, he was the only living descendant of the family until Bruce was born. The New 52 would also explore the possibility of Bruce having a long-lost brother, a sibling who was supposed to have died right after being born. Years later, when Bruce hooked up with Talia al Ghul, it was later revealed that she didn't love him, and was only in the relationship in order to mix the Al Ghul and Wayne bloodlines, resulting in her mothering Damian Wayne, who became the new Robin after he chose to live with his father. And the feels between Bruce and Damian are the best. Bruce is often depicted as deeply caring for his son, and minus, putting him in danger while fighting crime, he's actually a pretty solid parent occasionally. With Alfred heavily involved in the mix and Bruce's other adopted sons of the Bat family, he and Damian's dynamic often is an entertaining one to read. Up next, number 4, the Inhuman Royal Family. Also known as the House of Aegon, the Inhuman Royal Family are descendants of the former ruler of Inhumans, a race that was genetically altered by the Kree centuries ago. Inhumans predominantly kept themselves hidden from the rest of humanity. The family consists of Black Bolt, the king of the Inhumans, Medusa, the queen, who is also cousins to her husband Black Bolt, but we'll just not talk about that. Crystal, Medusa's sister, Maximus, Black Bolt's brother, Ahura, the king and queen's son, and a slew of cousins. Karnak, Triton, and Unspoken, the former power-hungry Inhuman king who was banished. And then there's Lockjaw, their dog, who has the power of teleportation and is overall super awesome. Just look at him! Up next at 3, the Magneto family. Magneto's lineage is an impressive one. Aside from being one of the most complex and powerful villains in the Marvel Universe, his twin children, Scarlet Witch and Quicksilver, who initially were the kids of the Wizard but then that was later retconned, were born to Magneto's estranged wife, and were adopted by Romani parents. That was retconned again, to them being children who were genetic experiments, led to believe that Magneto was their father. But long before that, they would enter the Marvel Universe as reluctant villains, part of Magneto's Brotherhood of Evil Mutants in X-Men issue 4 in 1964, uninterested in Magneto's ideologies, and later became members of the second iteration of the Avengers team, alongside Hawkeye and team leader Captain America. Their family dynamic would continue to be explored over the years, especially in the House of M story arc, which saw Scarlet Witch altering all of reality to give mutants their heart's desires. And as you can imagine, Magneto's desires were ones that established mutant dominance over humans, to say the least. This family tree extends down to the Maximoffs, Wiccan and Speed, the children that Wanda Maximoff, aka Scarlet Witch, had with the Vision prior to their split. Quicksilver also had an empath daughter named Luna, whose mother was the Inhuman princess Crystal. Aside from them, Magneto has another daughter named Polaris, most well known for her mental health issues and relationship with Havoc, who is a Summers. They're all connected. Moving on to number 2, we have the Richards. Easily the most powerful family on this list, the Richards go beyond just being an adorable family unit. They're a succinct team. Nothing better illustrates this than the family's efforts to rebuild the Marvel multiverse after the end of Secret Wars. Many often consider the Fantastic Four to be comics' first family, consisting of Reed Richards, Mr. Fantastic, Sue Storm's Invisible Woman, Ben Grimm, the Thing, and Sue's brother Johnny Storm, the Human Torch. Reed and Sue are one of the oldest Marvel couples, and they've had 2 kids, Franklin and Valeria Richards, both of whom are crazy powerful. Franklin is a mutant with beyond Omega level reality manipulating and psionic powers. Valeria is a genius, outsmarting her father at a young age, along with a whole arsenal of other powers. Ben often acts as an uncle to the kids, and Victor Von Doom is the godfather of Valeria, having helped deliver the child and thus naming her after a woman he once loved and also savagely sacrificed. And finally, in at number 1, the Kents. Superman's family has always been pretty integral to his history, much like Bruce Wayne's, but these days Clark Kent is boasting a new family unit, since Rebirth with Lois Lane and their son Jonathan Samuel Kent, named after both of their dads. The firstborn son of Superman, John Kent is one of the most adored newer characters to debut in the DC universe, and the trio's family dynamic is oh so endearing. And Jonathan would go on to become the new Superboy. The family unit first appeared during 2015's Convergence story event as the pre-Flashpoint continuity Superman who, along with Lois, had been trapped on another planet where he did not have powers, and eventually ended up in the Earth Zero timeline. When DC relaunched itself yet again, DC established Superman as the pre-Flashpoint Superman, meaning we began to see a a lot more of Jonathan, which included him becoming buddies with Batman's son, Damian Wayne, and they have the best bromance ever. Alright, there we have it, friends. Which of these is your favorite superhero family? And would you want us to do a part 2 list, but focus more on figurative families? Give us a shout about that in those comments below. If you dug this video, please show us some love. Hit that like button, and subscribe if you'd like to hang out with us some more. If you're feeling like some more superhero lovin', we've got a ton of other great nerdy videos just waiting for you to get your peepers on them, all in the playlist that's currently flashing on your screen. In the meantime though, thanks for watching everybody. I'll catch you all in the next video.